Level 1, the note job. You walked into a bank and handed someone a note. That's it. No weapon, no crew, no plan beyond, give me the money, or I wrote some words on a piece of paper. You passed the note. The teller opened the drawer. You left with somewhere between $2,000 and $4,000, which is the average haul from a demand note robbery, and you have the audacity to feel good about this. Here is what was happening while you were walking out. 6 cameras captured your face from 6 angles. The moment you handed that note, the teller triggered a silent alarm, a foot pedal, or a button under the counter, wired directly to local dispatch and the FBI's field office. The note you handed over went into an evidence bag. Your fingerprints are on it. The FBI photographs your face from the surveillance footage, extracts the clearest frame, and uploads it to bankrobbers.fbi.gov within hours of the robbery. They also push it through the FBI Bank Robbers app, which distributes your photo to every law enforcement agency in the region. Then you get a nickname. The FBI names unidentified serial robbers: the Dapper Bandit, the Piggyback Bandit, the Derby Desperado. The nickname is strategic, something memorable enough to make the news, specific enough that anyone who knows you immediately thinks of you. Dana Connor was the Dapper Bandit for a while, until his photo went public, a tip came in, and he wasn't. You thought you left nothing behind. You left your face on 6 cameras, your prints on a note, and a photograph that is now on the internet. They'll get to you. Level 2, the disguise. You've done some research. You know about the cameras. So this time you're wearing a hat, sunglasses, a hoodie, maybe a medical style mask. You have prepared for the cameras and you feel like you've solved the problem. You haven't solved the problem. The FBI does not need your full face. Facial recognition software can isolate partial features, the curve of your ear, the geometry of your jawline, the shape of your nose bridge, and run them against databases with enough accuracy to generate matches. But that's not even the part that gets you. It's your gait. The way you walk is as individually specific as a fingerprint. Gait analysis software measures your stride length, the angle of your knees when you step, how you distribute weight, whether your left shoulder drops when you move quickly. You've been walking this way your entire life. A hat does not change it. A hoodie does not change it. You cannot walk differently. The FBI also pulls every ATM camera, every traffic camera, every convenience store camera in a 3-block radius around the bank. They track your path in and track your path out. Your disguise only covered your face while you were inside the bank. The moment you hit the sidewalk and walked to your car, you were on 4 other cameras looking completely normal. And there's one more thing: your height. Banks install reference marks on their door frames, standardized horizontal lines behind the entry, specifically so that surveillance footage can be used to calculate height to within 1 inch. You are now in a database as a male between 5'10 and 5'11, walking with a slight right side lean, wearing New Balance shoes with a distinctive sole pattern that showed up on the bank's polished floor. The disguise was a hat. The FBI has a measurement. Level 3, the getaway. You're thinking now. You have a car, you have a route, you may have switched plates, you've thought about the timeline, how long the cops take to respond, how far you'll be by then. You have underestimated license plate readers. Modern cities run LPR networks, automated cameras mounted on patrol cars, on traffic signals, on overpasses that scan and log every license plate they encounter continuously all day. In a major metropolitan area, these systems log millions of plate reads per day. When the FBI responds to a bank robbery, they pull all plate reads within a defined area around the bank during the relevant time window. Every car that passed, every plate. If your plates were fake or switched, they follow your vehicle through traffic cameras until your real plates appear. If you ditched the car, they find the car, and the car has trace evidence. Fiber from your clothes, a receipt in the center console, a hair. Your phone was also in that car, and it was pinging cell towers the entire time. In November 2024, a man robbed a bank in Chicago's Loop. The teller handed him cash that included a GPS tracker. He didn't know. The FBI followed the signal to an apartment. He was arrested. He said, and this is a direct quote from the court documents, "I did it." You can plan the getaway. You cannot plan for the GPS in a random bill you didn't know was there. The FBI doesn't tell you which bills are tracked. That's the point. Level 4, the series robber. You've done it twice now, 3 times. It worked. You're refining. Different banks, different days, maybe different neighborhoods. You've adjusted based on what felt wrong last time. You're getting better at this. The FBI is also getting better, at you specifically. Every time you rob a bank, you add a data point to a file the FBI is building on an unknown suspect they've already named. Your robberies are linked by MO, the approach, the note style, the exit direction, the time of day, the type of institution through VICAP, the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, which cross-references unsolved crimes nationwide for matching behavioral patterns. Now your photo is being distributed more aggressively, now a bank robbery task force has a board with your robberies mapped, and now geographic profiling is running. Geographic profiling is the statistical analysis of your crime locations to determine where you probably live. The model is built on a simple principle. People commit crimes in places they're comfortable, and comfort radiates from home. The more robberies you commit, the more precisely the model can identify the zone where you sleep. After 4 or 5 robberies in the same metro area, investigators can often narrow the search to a few square miles. You thought committing more robberies spread out the risk. Each robbery is a coordinate. The coordinates are converging on your apartment. Level 5, the weapon. You brought a gun. Maybe you just showed it. Maybe you didn't even take it out, you just let the teller see the outline in your waistband. You thought it would make things faster. It did. It also changed your legal situation permanently. Bank robbery under 18 U.S.C. Section 2113 carries a maximum of 20 years per count. Bank robbery by putting in jeopardy the life of any person by the use of a dangerous weapon, the moment that gun was visible to a teller, carries a maximum of 25 years per count. Discharge the weapon and seriously injure someone. You are now looking at a mandatory minimum that can run to life. But the charge is not the only thing that changed. The presence of a weapon escalates the FBI response category. Your case now goes to agents who work specifically violent bank robbery. A violent crime task force may be activated. Attorney's office gets notified faster, the prosecution is more aggressive, witnesses are more protected and more cooperative because they were in a room where they thought they might die. The gun also produced evidence. At some point during the robbery, you were gripping it, adjusting it, or pointing it. Every camera in the bank captured the model, the approximate caliber, and any distinguishing features. You have now added in possession of a firearm during a violent federal felony to a list of charges that were already going to define the rest of your adult life. You brought the gun because it felt like control. The FBI categorized it as evidence. Level 6, the crew. You've decided not to do this alone. There are now multiple people. Someone drives, someone watches the door, someone handles the tellers. You've divided the labor. More people means more money, less exposure for each individual person. That's the theory. Here is the reality of that theory. Everyone in the car faces the same federal charges as the person who walked in. The getaway driver who sat outside for 4 minutes and drove away is charged identically to the person who pointed a gun at a teller's face. Federal conspiracy law means that every member of a criminal enterprise is legally responsible for all of it. You can be convicted of armed bank robbery without having entered the building. More importantly, every person you add to this is a person who can be arrested first. And the person who was arrested first has a conversation with a federal prosecutor about what everyone else did and where everyone else is. That conversation always happens. Not because people are disloyal, because reducing a federal sentence by cooperating is one of the few legal options available, and everyone in that car is also trying to survive. In Memphis, Courtney Trinnell, Devin Hines, and Joshua Cribbs were convicted on 4 bank robbery counts. 3 people, 4 banks, all convicted. The crew tripled the evidence against each of them. You added people to reduce the risk, federal law added charges for each of them, and the FBI added 4 times the witnesses. Level 7, the takeover. You're not passing notes anymore. The crew enters the bank together armed. Someone calls the room. Everyone gets on the floor. The tellers are controlled. You have time. You demand vault access. You walk out with real money, not a teller's drawer, but the vault. This is called a takeover robbery. And the FBI treats it differently because the evidence profile is completely different. You were inside the bank for longer. That matters enormously. Every additional minute is more camera angles, more witnesses, more contact with surfaces. Takeover-style robbers consistently leave DNA at the scene, sweat through gloves, hair transfer, fibers from clothing, skin contact with the vault door or counter surfaces. The FBI processes a takeover scene as a violent federal crime scene with the full forensics response. Every customer on that floor is now a federal witness. The FBI will interview all of them. Their accounts will be consistent because what happened to them was consistent. They were held at gunpoint in a federal institution by a crew that touched everything. In May 2026, an FBI operation in Chicago ended when the Bureau moved on a crew responsible for 5 armed bank robberies in the Chicago suburbs. The man federal prosecutors called the mastermind was killed in the subsequent shootout. The rest of the crew was indicted. The FBI had been building the case across all 5 robberies before moving because they wanted all of them, not just whoever happened to be holding the gun one day. The vault was the goal. The vault is also where you stayed the longest, touched the most surfaces, and gave the FBI the most time to work with. Level 8, the counter-surveillance crew. Now there's real preparation. Before the robbery, someone scouts the target, visits the bank as a customer, notes camera positions, guard shifts, cash delivery timing. The crew uses signal jammers to interfere with the bank's wireless alarm transmission. They disguise as construction workers or maintenance crews. They rent short-term vacation properties near the target instead of hotels to avoid leaving records. They use cars sourced off the books. This is exactly what a crew of 11 Chilean nationals did across California, Oregon, and Washington between May and October 2024. They targeted 29 banks and ATMs. They took more than $4 million. They were sophisticated signal jammers, blowtorches for ATMs, COVID-style masks, consistent construction worker disguises, black market vehicles, short-term rentals to avoid hotel databases. They were professionals. The FBI linked all 29 robberies through VICAP. The identical methodology, the same jammers, the same disguise approach, the same equipment, the same rental property footprint connected the dots across 3 states. The FBI executed search warrants on multiple rental properties and found hundreds of pounds of robbery tools, disguises, fake identification documents, and more than $100,000 in cash. A grand jury indicted all 11. A fugitive member of the crew was later arrested after a separate ATM bombing in San Ramon, California. The sophistication was the signature. Every time you use the same professional methodology, you're creating a consistent behavioral fingerprint that links your crimes across jurisdictions. The FBI isn't matching faces, they're matching tools. Level 9, the inside job. Someone at the bank is helping you. Not a robbery, a coordinated theft, a current or former employee. They tell you when the cash delivery happens, which day the vault is fullest, which guard takes a longer break on Tuesday, which teller is newer and less likely to respond quickly. You have the inside of the building before you enter it. This feels like the cleanest version of this crime. No improvisation, no exposure to the unknown. Everything is already mapped by someone who walks through that door every day. Here's the problem. Bank employees are federally regulated in a way that most professions aren't. The Bank Secrecy Act and federal financial institution compliance frameworks require banks to report suspicious internal activity, unusual access patterns, employees who suddenly have access they didn't need, internal communications that don't match job functions. The compliance officer at a federally insured institution is, functionally, a mandatory reporter to federal regulators. When something inside the bank looks off, there is a formalized path to the FBI, and the inside person always leaves traces. Unexplained deposits after the robbery, a new car, a lifestyle shift. The FBI runs financial forensics on suspected insiders the same way they run it on tax fraud cases. An employee who made $47,000 last year and just paid off their student loans in cash is a conversation that is happening. The inside man thought being invisible was easy. They worked in a federally monitored institution and left a financial record of exactly what happened. Level 10, the professional violent crew. You've done this enough times that it's a job. Multiple robberies, national scope, armed, organized. You have roles, you have protocol, you have contingencies. You have done the math on what you're willing to do if law enforcement makes contact, and the answer is not surrender. The FBI has also done that math. At this level, joint bank robbery task forces, multi-agency units that combine FBI agents, marshals, ATF, and local law enforcement have been building your case for months before they move. They want the entire crew. They want every robbery documented. They want charges that run consecutively so that the math becomes inescapable. 25 years per armed robbery count, multiplied by however many robberies, plus firearms enhancements, plus conspiracy charges. The FBI does not move until the case is complete. They will watch you commit another robbery if moving early means getting one person instead of 6. That patience is the most dangerous thing about how they operate. Bank robbery carries a federal maximum of 25 years per count. If anyone is killed or seriously injured, the ceiling is life. The North Hollywood shootout in 1997 is the outer boundary of this level. Two heavily armed robbers with body armor, automatic weapons, and a plan to shoot their way out. They were both killed before they reached their car. It is still the most heavily documented armed bank robbery in American history, studied by law enforcement and used in FBI training. The professional crew thinks longevity is proof the system can't catch them. The FBI uses that longevity to build a case that's impossible to beat. The average federal bank robbery conviction results in a sentence of just over 7 years. For a professional violent crew with multiple robberies, the math on consecutive charges looks nothing like the average. By the time the FBI moves, the file has been closed for months. They were just waiting on you,